The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so really intriguing stuff going on in the 154-pound division. First and foremost, before I get into the main topic of this video, let me send my my best regards to Brandon Adams, who fell ill and fainted before his scheduled fight with Caoimhan Agyrako a couple weeks ago. Brandon Adams is a true warrior, and Brandon Adams, tried to make the weight, and, sometimes this happens in boxing. That's why you got to be very, very careful and attentive with your weight cuts and just everything you do in camp. Everything is of the highest importance in camp. And with that being said, maybe him and Agyrako could fight in the future, because Brandon Adams, if he can make the weight healthily, it'd be great to see him in the division. If not, then brother, you might gotta go to 160 and explore a future up there. But anyway, kind regards to him. In light of Brandon Adams, not being able to fight Agyrako as it was originally scheduled, Agyrako has been formally ordered to fight none other than the former IBF champion himself, and I still feel like one of the danger men of the 154-pound division. A guy that people aren't gonna rush to fight because there's not a lot of money in fighting him, and he hits really hard, and that's Bakhram Murtazaliev. Yes, you have Bakhram versus Agyrako. That could be a potential next fight. Obviously, from the Bakhram side of things, if he beats Agyrako, this fight does happen, and he beats Agyrako, that puts Bakhram in a position where he could, potentially rematch Josh Kelly in a potential world title fight. And I think Josh Kelly would like the idea of that, because Bakhram is not a big commercial draw or anything like that, so he can't really dictate terms. He couldn't even dictate terms when he was champion. He had to go to the UK to defend the belt. So imagine now, Josh Kelly's been talking about fighting in the Stadium of Light at Sunderland. Bakhram, I think, would be the kind of opponent you could do that with, right? And that could be his dream fight. And he already beat him, so he has the confidence already of beating him. But nonetheless, going to the Agyrako fight, because Agyrako is a guy that I've casually followed since 2022 when he was scheduled to fight Pistol Pete Dobson, and that fight fell through. He's had a lot of fights fall through. He's kind of been an unlucky guy in his career, for being honest. But he's trying to become the first black Irishman to become a world champion, and he really is only, I would say, 2 fights away from that, the eliminator and the title fight. He's right there. He's knocking on the door. So let's talk about it. What exactly are Agyrko's chances against a guy like Bakhram? Because Bakhram, we know he hits hard. We know that he's very strong. We know he has a very good power jab. But we also know he's limited, and if you can move, you can beat him. Now, Agyrako, I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a mover, but certain fighters can bring out different things in a guy's style. When you look at Agyrko's career, he's been a guy that has been put in very tough at the British and European level, and he's had to grind a lot of tough victories out, from the Troy Williamson fight, which was a split decision, to the Ryan Kelly fight, which was a majority. He had a cut in that fight, to the Ishmael Davis fight, which a lot of people, myself included, I thought he lost that fight, right? So he hasn't lit the world on fire with his performances. But one thing about it is, it don't matter if you're this much better than your opponent or this much better than your opponent. He's found a way to win, right? So, and he's got 133 rounds of professional experience. So I'll say it like this: from watching him fight, I think he does a couple things well, but he's not matching Bakhram punch for punch in the firepower department. I think he's going to have to mix the ranges up on Bakhram if they fight. I think he's going to have to move and counter punch. And you can't hold your feet with a guy like Bakhram. But Josh Kelly has already given the world the blueprint. Josh Kelly and Jack Colque, to a degree, have given the world the blueprint how to beat Bakhram. So it's just a matter of your will, as a fighter in the ring. How much can you give, and how much can you take, and how much can you avoid having to take, right? Because that was the thing even with Kelly. Kelly would win a lot of these rounds. Kelly would circle the ring. Kelly would score a flash knockdown. But in the last 3 rounds, as slow and as robotic and as clumsy as Bakhram looked, Josh Kelly was eventually on the canvas. Bakhram eventually got to Josh Kelly. So I want to see this fight. I don't mind this fight, because I'm all about fairness. One thing about me is even if I'm not a big fan of a fighter or whatever, or if I'm indifferent, you know, I'm all about fairness. I respect the journey of these fighters, you know, especially more now. I mean, I've been in camp with Angelo Leo, and I've been sparring and things like that a lot more frequently against professional fighters, getting my ass tore up, but also having to dig deep and learn some things about myself. So that being said, you know, I've always had respect for fighters, but you know, that much more now being in the camp. So yeah, Agyrako had a fight against Brandon Adams. You know, he did his job. He was professional. He stepped up to the plate, and he was going to fight one of the best contenders the division has to offer in Brandon Adams. Through no fault of his own, Brandon Adams couldn't make the fight. You know, and I think that you know, he should be awarded for, you know, being a professional. So they've done that, and they've done right by him. And God willing, main events, and I think Matchroom Boxing, who I think Agyrko's with, the fine folks there, whoever promotes them. God willing, they can, you know, go ahead and make this fight happen, and Agyrako can get his chance to show what he could do. And if he could beat Bakhram Murtazaliev, then boom, you right there challenging Josh Kelly for the world title. And look, you have the potential for Ireland versus the UK, right? In a big world title fight, with Agyrako potentially having the chance to become the first Black Irishman to win the world championship. So that would be, to me, just even thinking about it now, because I never really thought about that fight, but I'm fleshing it out now in real time. That's a mega event. I think that's a mega event. Josh Kelly's a named British fighter, world champion. Agyrako got the Irish behind him, trying to become the first Black Irishman to become champion. You can't tell me that wouldn't be a big event in the UK. So, yeah, once again, Bakhram, I feel this fight's to get made. Bakhram's going to be up against it. Bakhram is going to have all odds against him again, because the politics are not in his favor. The politics are not going to be on his side. So if you fight Caoimhan Agyrako, you have to punch a hole through him. You have to take him to some deep, dark, uncomfortable places, and you got to find a way to cut the ring off early on him and close the gap and use that heavy thudding power to systematically break him down. But it's a good fight. I like the fight. I like the fight a lot. You know, so hopefully it gets over the line. Speedy recovery to Brandon Adams. I like Brandon Adams. I had the chance to meet Brandon Adams at the WBA convention. Probably one of the nicest fighters I've ever met. One of the coolest people to talk to in all boxing. So, you know, it sucks to see that he didn't get the chance to fight Agyrako. Hopefully he can make 154 again and really make some noise and get his world title shot, because that's a guy that's been willing, ready, and able to fight any and everybody. You know, there's few fighters at 154 that I have as much respect for as Brandon Adams. So speedy recovery to him, and best of luck to Agyrako and Bakhram if the fight does get over the line. So I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you guys think about Bakhram Murtazaliev versus Caoimhan Agyrako for the IBF title? And what do you think about the possibility of either, you know, you have Ireland versus the UK, Agyrako versus Kelly in a world title fight, or the Bakhram versus Josh Kelly rematch? You know, things are moving along. 154. We got Boots versus Xander not too far from now. So yeah, it's definitely exciting times, and I'm happy to cover it for you guys here on True School Sports. So yeah, leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. You wanna say hello? Say hello. Can you say hi, Boxing World?
Hi, Boxing World.
Can you say True School Sports?
Truth? Oh.
Can you say True School Sports? Say True School Sports. Can you say The Untouchable? Can you say The Home of Boxing? The Home of Boxing.